At SteelSeries, we make the headsets, mice, and keyboards that the world's best gamers win the most with. And we've been doing it since way back. It's up to you how far you go, but whatever you do, go for glory.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the Northern League of Legends Championship. We're standing at week 4, day 2, so it's the second half of the split starting today. My name is Alexandra Maya. I will be your host and I will not be lonely. I will be together with Initialize and the Veteran. Welcome back to the desk. How are we doing?
Very well. I brought my
Veteran.
pen.
What's happening, Veteran? What's happening?
I'm doing good. How are you doing? I've been activated.
Lovely.
Hello. Lovely
I'm
to
so
be here.
happy. Second half
me
of the
too.
split, so we already got a few things in our bag. You also have a portal. I should get
I
my
do.
portal over there. Yeah, my portal over there. Do you
It's
have
an
a portal,
emotional
Veteran?
support. Yeah, it's my emotional support poro. Do you have an emotional support poro?
I
I have
unfortunately
one.
do not.
Do you have one? Veteran.
No,
What's
I have
happening?
an emotional support teapot, which will be filled very, very soon.
I've actually got that teapot. It's a great teapot.
Yes. Yes. No, you don't really need
Yeah,
another one. after you get
it's a
this.
really good
Especially
teapot.
the way the
It's true.
handle is done. It's perfect. Yes. It's
brilliant.
Yes.
I'm definitely surrounded by British people, and I
Yes.
love it. Talking about those, let's toss it to the casters. It is Rudud in Middlecott yet again, sharing a window.
You gotta understand, the Middlecott is currently 0 for 8 this week.
Yeah.
He has not got a single protection right.
Hey. Yeah, let's see how you do under pressure. Oh. Yeah, I've been wanting this shit forever. I've been in the field with whatever they throw at me. Brush it off, pick myself up, moving on to the better. Okay. Hey. Yeah. Ain't no errors, baby, it's a new era. I wake up early, feeling rich like I'm Kesha. I get to the paper, boy. Extra, extra. Fuck with me, you know that I got it. Come with me, let's take a trip to the islands. We up on the jet, we'll do more than just fly on it. Stand on that hill, you gon' die on it. Boom, boom. Baby, I'm not one of them, you should try on it. Miss me with all that, I'm on it and next. Fuck this up, I send you back to your ex. But good luck with that, this is big as it gets. Hey, let's see how you do under pressure. Let's see how you do.
Wait,
That's right, baby! Hey!
No,
Look at
wait,
it!
what do you mean?
Look
What do you
at it!
mean? How?
Bro, you know me, I got those connections, okay? We're talking about industry, we are talking about man that make movements. Artrum, I don't care that I went 0-8 last week, bro. I got the bag, brother! I got the bag!
I was saying before the show started, I will buy you a mouse. And you had one all the time. I love you. I love you. Congratulations, Rudud. What do you have to say?
I have nothing to say. We've done our introductions. That was all we needed. We spent the entire
was
day this
cool.
morning
That was
making
hot.
sure that we were ready for that bit. Executed perfectly.
Man's hot. Man's hot. The Lord is dead. Toss it back to the desk. Toss it back. It's dead.
I genuinely feel that Rudude actually won that. He's just given it to Middlecott. There's no way. There's no way.
I gotta give it to you. I believe that's a reality. Yeah, it's not his. It's a rented mouse.
It's a rented mouse. He's
refuse
rented a
to
mouse
believe.
from Steel Series.
I refuse to believe, but well, let's believe
Oh,
what happened
no.
yesterday, which was the last day of the first half of the split. Let's talk about the games, gentlemen. What can we say about them?
That is a good question.
Eventful.
Yes,
what
that's
I'll
exactly
say.
the way.
Right. Like, we have one of the flattest leagues of all of the ERLs right now. Pretty legitimately, everyone is beating everyone. Even when, like, Venom Crest looked like they were doing really, really well, they have managed to drop 2 games in the first half. Lions Creed we thought were going to stomp. They ended up pretty much dead even. Natives lineup looks like a lineup that should have been up there with Lions Creed. They are up there with Lions Creed, both at 4 and 3. Like, this is a region where anyone can beat anyone. Every single day is like that. So that's what I can say, right? It's always an interesting week, and I never exactly know who is going to be the guys coming out on top. I really don't know who's going to win this split, straight up. I think at playoffs it's going to look very different.
I think that's not an unreasonable take. And Lightside, after a really rough start, did come up and win this one. And then this one, Lions Creed, feeling a little bit back on form in some ways. They've got the win here. It was against Nord, one of the better teams to lead. But again, it feels like Nord have kind of been dropping the ball a little bit recently. And Nile getting solo killed against Lenny the last week. Today, it was like Lions Creed, Johan gets on the Maokai, he sets it for the team. They looked a bit more coordinated. It was still a bit messy, I think it's fair to say. But all the same, Lions Creed have still got a lot of mechanical strength and depth on that roster. And when you do have some setup that's a little bit easier to execute, like the Maokai setting up for things like Kali and Jinjo, who has been definitely their best performing member on the Aphelios, to do some serious DPS, it felt a lot better. Can they replicate it, though, 2 days in a week? That'll be a question, though, because we have seen this team run hot and cold between one day and the next.
I'm betting 5 points on them coming in hot today, but I did bet
Same, actually, I think.
yesterday, and it's just
Possibly
gone.
3.
It's just gone. So yeah, I mean, it's unpredictable right now. And the thing is, Lions Creed, they're the team we figured were going to come in with some kind of synergy, right? They do have pre-existing players that have already played with each other, that have a really, really good system there. But it's been Venom Crest and Verden that have been leading the standings with that synergy, the Danish Power Rangers, and whatever Venom Crest cooked in the off-season, because they have been looking phenomenal the whole time.
Yeah, exactly that. And I think Verdant and Venom Crest, as you kind of noted, are the two I felt have been the most stable teams. Yeah, the games they've lost have felt like... I think Venom Crest lost a game where they kind of got a bit out-drafted that one time. And yeah, they came out and went, yeah, actually, we tried to play for the win cons, but they were quite narrow and we didn't get the win off that one. I remember me and you having that conversation even better at the time.
Yeah.
But Verdant are another one of those teams who actually on the whole... In fact, I think it was a loss against Verdant, if I remember correctly. But Verdant are another team that's come in, felt like a really cohesive unit. It's not always been perfect, but having players like Gooby and PlayStation who've got a little bit of creativity to them, who've got a little bit of that Movistar madness still in them, can still come out and be kind of fun here and looking pretty good, with the exception of occasionally Smurfette and Natives still having some triggers to pull, shall we say.
Yeah, I mean, Natives is a team I have really high hopes for, right? They have Selfie, former LEC player, in the mid lane. They have Jakey, who's been a staple in the ERLs for a long time. They have a stable force to build around. I think they've just found themselves struggling against very heavy range, because you have carries that really like these more mid-range picks as opposed to the super far picks like the Corki Jace Maokai setup that they lost to yesterday. When that's on red side, or when that's into them at all, suddenly the Aphelios is quite vulnerable, the Azir is quite vulnerable, the favoured champions of Natives are vulnerable. They're sticking to one particular style, but there are multiple teams that have their number on that style, and I want to see if Natives adapt to that today, because every game matters when in a flat league like this. If one team starts figuring it out, they're going to clear the rest of the pack, and there are only 4 slots. We're halfway through the league right now, and only half the league can go through into the next stage.
I think also on screen now we're seeing Venom Crest as one of those teams that are able to punish a team like Natives with comps like that, because they are able to draft some serious spice and not make it look like cheese, make it look like something that is coordinated together and very, very dangerous. Particularly that support and jungle duo. It was the Viego and the Pike again this time around, with a Hui in the AD carry position, this time an AP carry, just deleting people. The fact they are able to pull out drafts like that, look very successful on that, despite some slightly narrower win cons even into a team they were against. I know Aragon was a little bit nervous for them. Says a lot about that team. If I was looking at the end of the split, it feels like Venom Crest, Verdant, the two teams that look most stable and most ready to go to playoffs right now. In what form they'll be once they're there, I don't know. But the two other teams joining them, who on earth has any idea as it stands? Because every other team has been throwing enough games, has had enough spice in the back pocket to take a game off literally everybody else.
Nobody knows what's going to happen, and as we move forward, and we'll go back to that one in a future veteran. But if you know what's happening back at home, so head on to Twitter and gain this beautiful mouse. If you want to be just like Middlecott, Hip Hop, and Swagalicious, head on to Twitter, put in your predictions to win a SteelCity ZX5 wireless mouse. You have the ability to win one every single week, but you're only allowed to win one per split. I think Middlecott somehow stole his mouse, but you're still allowed to participate. As SteelCities will give you this beautiful one, wireless with colors, just like the LED on Middlecott's room. It's gonna be beautiful. So head on to Twitter, put in your predictions, and tell us who do you think is gonna win. But before we jump into today's games, gentlemen, let's play a game of our own. Who am I? Skill Edition. What's gonna happen? It's quite simple. I'll give you some sort of clue, and each of you will raise his arm and tell me who do you think it is. The faster you get it, the more points you will receive. Keep in mind, this doesn't make sense. First clue. I use my weapon to jump and slam the ground. Even if I hit you, you fly. Yeah?
Poppy.
No, that was a good attempt. Second, you can dodge the knock-up if you're fast enough.
What? That's so many champs, no?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, Braum.
Which one?
Braum?
No. Keep in mind, if you tell me the skill name, I'll give you extra points. But you both fail, so I have to give you the third one. I can use it 3 times before cooldown.
Please.
Yes.
The joke is too easy.
It's going to be Aatrox with a sword, which is the Darkened Blade.
And I'll give you 2 points just because of that one. Initialize Aatrox, the Darkened Blade. Let's toss it to the second one as we have a little bit of time. First clue, I'll make it spin and keep spinning. There are a lot of things in League that spin, so veteran,
Yeah,
hit
but
me.
Garen has to be Garen, no?
That is a good attempt, and I knew you would go for that one, so it's not correct. Second one. I'm a devious person. While it's spinning, the damage is way more powerful. Oh.
While it's spinning.
Oh. Uh-huh. Tick,
While it's spinning.
tick. Yes, hit me.
Is it Rammus with Powerball?
Is that
My
what
gosh, really? That's so far away from what I put up.
It's not. Yeah, it's not. Okay.
The third and last one. You may throw me, but if you don't catch me, I'm gone. Yes. Yes.
No, Bone Meringue?
No,
you have
and
to
I'll
catch it
toss
on
it
the
to
way
you,
back?
veteran. That
Draven
was a good
Axe?
attempt.
Draven
Which
Axe?
one?
Draven Axe.
Axe. And it's called...
I don't know. I'm not a play-by-player. Like, that's the
Spinning Axe. It's
play-by-play
actually a
stuff.
spin. But I'll give you a point for that one. I'll give you a point. So 2 in 1.
That's Izzy's right as well. It's very annoying.
Third skill. Make me bounce. Make me bounce. You decide how far I go. Yes, veteran.
Zach?
Zach, no.
Oh my
Second.
god. He literally has a skill called Let's Bounce.
I
got
know.
Baited. I got baited.
I'm
got
baiting
so
you
baited.
guys so...
You have to at
Second
least
one.
tell us what they are after we move on, no?
Yes, I just want to hug anyone as fast as possible, be it a champion or a minion. Yes, veteran.
The Mumu?
Keep in mind, it's a skill, not a champion. Third one. When I hug you, I go kaboom.
Oh,
Yeah.
is that
Yeah.
Maokai Sapling Toss?
Ah, close one. Veteran, do you want to try?
When I hug, I go kaboom.
Kaboom! Explosions.
I don't know, I think
Oh.
of Jinx of that, but she doesn't hug. Go on, surprise me.
It is Ziggs bouncing
I knew
bomb.
it. It's the bombs.
Ziggs hugs? What does he hug?
The bomb hugs people. It's a skill. Keep in mind, it's skills, veteran, not champions.
I
Okay.
mean, okay, I couldn't marry the hug part with Ziggs,
Okay,
like, at
I'll
all.
give you this one. If I hit you, I will slow you down, damage you, and even apply a stack of something. Yes, veteran.
Senna?
Close. Second one. My range will increase with how big I am. This is an easy one.
Wait, so if I give an answer,
Oh.
Initialize can't try an answer. It's
Yes,
just one of us. So I
Yes.
should just instantly slam every time. Like,
Exactly.
in a nanosecond.
exactly. Doesn't make sense. The game. That's the point.
I mean,
Yes,
I'll just let
initialize.
him have it.
It's Cho'Gath. Remember what the first clue was? Is it? It's not, is it?
It's not. It's about
Oh.
stacks. Oh, you got it. But the last clue is, let me give you a lick.
Tom,
Veteran already had his one.
He put it down again. He didn't have the question finished. He put his hand down.
I
and put it up again.
relied that Archeron saw that my hand was up. I knew I didn't
Oh
have to hold it up.
yeah,
I
yeah. That's a lie.
conserved
What is
energy.
this?
Veteran, what's the
That's
name of the skill?
absolute
Can you tell me?
lies.
Can
It's
you tell
Tom
me the name?
Kench. I don't know, but it's on cue. I have no idea.
It's Tom Kench, Tongue Lash. That's the second point for you. So you're both tied up. Let's go for the fifth one, and then we'll jump into
Something
today's
fell off my
matchups.
desk briefly. Oops.
Fifth one.
Yeah,
I'll create a
it was
path
you.
that will damage you. That's the first clue. Moving fast, gentlemen.
What?
Yes, veteran.
Singed?
No. Second one, while you're standing on it, it will slow you down and it's kind of nasty.
But
Yes?
I'm just gonna go with Teemo.
No. Third and last clue for this skill is oh. Yes, initialize.
I've got it.
Yes.
It's Cogmore with his big trail of sick, which is
That makes sense.
You got it anyway.
It's not caustic spittle. That's the E.
He's getting a D out,
good.
so it's
Yeah,
fine.
yeah.
You
Void
win
is, yeah, it's like,
initialize.
there you go.
You win initialize.
Hey!
So we have to move on. Time is of the essence, which brings us to today's schedule. By the way, initialize just won another game. Let's talk about today's matchups. What we have in schedule for today, because it's the rematch of the first half of the split. There you go. First one will be Ruddy versus Verdant. Lions Creed will follow up with DMG. Light Side for Venom Crest. And then at the end, Natives versus Nord. Gentlemen, today is a big day. And this is why we got to jump into Veteran's first favorite part, by the way. Talent predictions. Draven. Oh my. So everybody's going for Lions Creed. Everybody's going for Venom Crest. Split in the bottom, but Hiprain and Foxdrop in initialize.
I mean, Verdant are a fairly safe bet as well, right? Like you're kind of choosing multiple safe bets there, where you pick the 5s. I'm surprised about the 5 on Ruddy from Foxdrop, especially because he pretty much just have to hold. But yeah.
Anything that stands out for both of you, aside from this one?
I think it's going to be very interesting how that last game plays out. We've all basically got 1 or 2 points on that maximum. I think partly because it does seem so volatile.
Yes.
I chose 2 on Ruddy personally because I thought if there was a chance of an upset today, I feel like Ruddy are probably the team that might provide it. So I took a little bit of a gamble there because they are a team that has strong individual players, and Verdant have liked to play more stable games. If a game gets less stable, Ruddy's a team that can thrive in that. So that's kind of where I've taken that. If there was going to be an upset, a dark horse in that, that would be my one. I think the other ones, with, as I said, exception of that last game, a little bit more one-sided on paper.
Yeah, the last game of the day is the most important one, and therefore it's the one no one really has 5 points on. Because both of these teams could do well. Only one of these teams can go through towards the playoffs, assuming Lions Creed keep going on their upward trajectory. And honestly, Nord have been the surprising ones, right? If the entire league wasn't so flat, they'd actually be looking seriously strong right now. Natives, again, very vulnerable, that one singular play style. If Nord figure that part out, I think they can take that win. But that's basically the only if here. It's a very close matchup. I wish we could all put more stakes on it, but if you're going to put the point system this way, you're just going to see both people, everyone slamming on the for sure bets, right?
So I would like to ask you before we jump into the first game, even though we only have 2 minutes available, so I'll give you 1 minute for both of you. This is going to be Rep God if possible. We had the first half of the split. So I want you to tell me about the past so I can understand the future. What do you believe is the highlights of the first half of the split, and where should I put my points going forward? Because I want to win.
Venom Crest is the highlight for me, right? I absolutely love that team came out of nowhere. They do one thing really well. I wanted to go on a diatribe. I'll go on a diatribe later about the thing that I think Venom Crest do really well. But they're I love their performances so far.
Yeah, I think I'd echo that again. Part of it as well is the drafts have just been really fun, but actually they've also then executed them really well. They haven't just been weird. They've been well performed on top of that. I think the other team that has generally played pretty stably and pretty well has been Verdant, as we've kind of said. They've come in with a little bit of spice out of bots, and we've seen a Swain and stuff out of there. But generally speaking, they have been the team that have been most consistent. The other teams, this is the other half of it, who the hell knows what's going on? A lot of that middle of the pack has been, bluntly, a bit of a mess. We've seen really good games from teams and some very lackluster ones as well. Big kind of flaws in gameplay that have been exposed, and then some big strengths too. It does mean that I think the second half of the split is still quite hard to read outside of those top 2 in a lot of ways. And hell, we might still be proven wrong. I think every team there is more than capable of taking an upset win against nearly anyone else, which should raise some eyebrows, and it's why the predictions have been so all over the place.
The fact that we're only allowed to see 4 teams climb into playoffs means like that's a justification of how our points are so screwed up, because everything can happen. It's so sad to only see 4 teams jumping into playoffs. Meanwhile, we're jumping into the first game, which is Ruddy versus Verdant. And to me, this is quite an important one, because the first time Ruddy won was versus Verdant. And we heard yesterday that Verdant is confused because they're losing games they shouldn't. So, are you expecting the same? As we jump into oh, that was a beautiful transition. Jumping into Champion Select, what can we expect, gentlemen?
Wait, is that the NA Wolverine guy from Twitter in the coach role there? Okay, this should be interesting then, because he has some opinions when it comes to draft. And I'd love to see how many of them get implemented. Senna, blue side ban would not be something I'd think he would go for. But last time we saw Ruddy pull off the Senna composition with Senna Seraphine, and they went with the Akali in mid lane. They didn't really have a big hyper carry. Normally you see that paired with like the Corki or some big hyper carry in that kind of vein. Generally it's always Corki, right? Instead, they were pretty much full melee with those two. Not really the best kind of setup, but the absolute kind of sustained setup I would expect from someone like Wolverine to go for.
Yeah, and it's quite interesting because it's clear that I think the Senna is something that they do play to some extent, though yesterday it just kind of was on it, and it kind of went a bit wrong, unfortunately, for them. It got piked and taken out multiple times by Venom Crest, so maybe it's just saying, look, we don't want to first pick, we've got other ideas in play, we'll just ban it away, we're not so comfortable with it. It is the target bans from Verdant, Natty Nats Rengar, Bilt's Riven, the Seraphine that Ruddy have found some success with, so I think that all makes sense. On the other side, those are all pretty standard picks and bans away. Karma has been oh so potent. It is still very much a flex, very much something you can first pick, and that will be locked in for Ruddy there.
Yep, Seneca Sante bans meant that they were immediately setting up for a Karma Seraphine trade. Then when the Seraphine ended up getting banned out, that solidified it for them. So
yeah.
You could call the first pick Karma from miles away. The Senna first ban opened that entire strategy. The fact that Riven Rengar end up having to be 2 standard red side bans for Verdant really forces them into that not there, and Ruddy have capitalized on it.
That's a really good start. And then the response, something like a Xin Zhao makes sense for Julbu, who has liked to be quite aggressive on that, and Verdant have used that pretty well over the course of the split, so it wouldn't surprise me to see that locked in. And it's a takeaway from Natty Nat as well, to put a lot of time into the champion. Yes, to make success, but that's been Ruddy in general, so that makes sense. Gooby onto the Varus, it's the highest prio AD carry really over the last few patches. It's very strong, you can play it in multiple ways. It's very hard to take out of a game unless you draft very heavily against it. But instead they're debating going towards the Azir, which of course is an Errol special.
Yep, it's an L special, but it does leave Alex's pool quite open here. Alex plays a lot of Yone.
Yeah.
Alex plays a lot of Akali. He plays a lot of things that would be traditionally quite good in towards the Azir. The Varus as well is left open. If you can get both Azir and Varus, you have one of the best Baron compositions in the game. But if you trade that, you could potentially be against Varus, against Akali, and now you're into both things that Azir hates playing against. Just ourselves, it's the kind of composition that people like to draft in towards him on the Azir a lot. And we'll see that later in last game of the day, guys.
Yeah, I have to say, I've been quite a fan of where Ruddy have kind of picked up these first 2 picks. It feels pretty nice right now. See what they rounded out with, of course, still a lot to go. But I think that, as Veteran was saying there, it's a good start. Jax for either Natty Nat or Built then gives you a little bit of an additional option in terms of how to play the map. It's been a go-to for a lot of our carry top laners. You can still flex into the jungle, which we've seen a little bit as well, so I think that's still a nice flex. Ezreal here, it's been rising in priority, and it is strictly a takeaway in some ways if you're wanting to see it mid lane, I guess, but I don't know. Ezreal's been a weird pick at the minute.
So, Ezreal here would be a range match in towards Varus, and something that can actually play against a lot of Varus' skill shot based poke, a lot of Karma's skill shot based poke, but crucially, they're not in a position where they can pick a Jax counter pick now, and even if they could, Jax can just end up being flexed into jungle anyway. So they're in a really difficult position in draft. If you don't pick Ezreal now, it's going to be double AD bans, and you could have a terrible matchup into a Karma Varus lane. So they got really pigeonholed here by the choices Ruddy have made in the draft. Yone Akali should be the bans.
I agree completely, yeah.
Yeah, if they try to go for Yone plus a different ban and then pick Akali into Jax, you'll likely just see Jax flexed in towards the jungle. So honestly, even though Ruddy are on the blue side, it's Verdant that seem to be on the back foot when it comes to choices here. It is going to be the Yone Akali.
This
could be let's bear in mind, now it would be weird for him, but it could be a Varus in the mid lane. It's more likely that he just slams the Irelia, but that is still a possibility.
I mean, you're not wrong, because it's something that we used to see way back in like Season 6 and stuff that Kuro used to do, because it used to be an old school Azir counter. He hated playing into that. I suspect it's still pretty unlikely, but hey, it's Ruddy. They've been known to pull out some of those more unusual drafts, and that's just been true of the league in general. Ruddy have gone and decided, look, we've got the freedom to take away some of these more pick-and-play making supports that PlayStation is quite famous for. Thresh being not as strong right now in the pool as you know PlayStation would like. So getting rid of those two premier hook champions makes sense. I think the Rakan is something they have defaulted to in the past, and they've already got a Xin Zhao to double up the Rakan engage, right? Because Rakan loves it when he's got someone he can battle dance to first before using his W or using his R. It makes his entrance into a fight a lot less telegraphed and a lot more tricky to navigate. But now you got to figure out what they want to do with this comp. They've got a couple flex picks already. They're debating a few of those mid lane picks for Alex. I think that's locked. And a reminder,
yes, it is.
Zed used to be an old school counter into the Azir. It's what Febiven used to get solo kills at the MSI in 2015 against Azir when he was a fresh champion. It's not seen that regularly, but you could even see it jungle specifically.
This is definitely going to be a Zed in mid lane. Alex actually played this a lot back in the PG Proving Grounds in 2023.
There you go then.
Specifically this matchup as well. Very glad to see it locked in. I was worried when they were looking at the Syndra, because that is pretty much the primary mage that he likes to play. But the Zed matchup, it's highly unlikely Julbu has played, that Errol has played against it very recently at all. My worry is that Ezreal does have good armor-based build paths into it, so it may not be as optimal as possible here. But if Jace gets locked in, Zed has a lot of options. So Zed, different to any other assassin, you should really consider him more like an AD mage, kind of like an Azir, rather than any other kind of assassin. But the all-in potential, Azir doesn't have counters for the same reason he doesn't into Akali. You have the dashes to make up for all of his mobility. You stick to him. If he gets the kill opportunities post-6, he will kill this Azir, and you can't just buy stopwatch anymore. So Zed should be up in priority, but it takes the balls of a raw talent like Alex to break it out in a game that absolutely matters for Ruddy right here, right now.
They're not
It's
allowed
his
to lose
second
any
most
more
played
games,
champion of all time, for the record. He's 80% win rate on this champion. He's put a lot of time into that. He's got 5. He's not played for that long, in fairness, but 5 games, 4-1. It's his 6th game of all time on it. Pretty exciting stuff.
Keep in mind that one of the 2 victories that Ruddy has, it was versus this team, and the MVP was actually Alex. So he's pulling the Z gun. This is going to be interesting. Tossing it to the castle is Redude, and the man of the hour, middle court, Mouse the Beast.
Yo, man of the hour. Yo, I'm liking that.
I'll just leave, I guess. I don't know.
we've still got the music.
Man of the hour,
hype music
and
on.
then Rudude. He's here as well. Cool. Thanks, Asher. Nice, man.
Great to be back for another
Yeah,
caster.
it
I
is.
feel like we kind of skipped over our caster intro because of certain
nature
things
of it, yeah.
which occurred. Getting into this game, we didn't really talk about it too much, but this is 2-5 versus 5-2. There has been a bit of a gulf developed between these two teams, but we've got to remember that Ruddy took down Verdant on the very first day of the split, and Alex is looking empowered to potentially do it again.
Yeah, that's obviously a very exciting prospect, especially when we have the Zed locked in the mid lane. We already highlighted the Febiven versus Faker run back really of this matchup, and I think that this composition specifically for a Zed actually very easy to navigate. The CC is what you're really looking at, and I see 2, I think I count like 2-3 total amounts of hard CC, JC potentially as a 4th if we're really splitting hairs, but it's going to be really difficult for Verdant to lock down this Zed, and if Alex does get snowballing, which we know he can, it could be a very difficult game for Verdant to try and play.
But then if we do look at Verdant's composition on the other side, this is almost as standard as you can get, really, with that little bit of a twist of the Jace up in the top lane for Duxie. We'll have to see how it plays out. Damn! Woo! That intro is fire.
Yeah, it goes a bit too hard, maybe.
Little bit too hard. But we are now on to Summoner's Rift here for Ruddy up against Verdant. running a lot of those arcane comments, so hinting at some potential poke to come through, but there is also a lot of long range that Verdant are going to be able to throw out.
Yeah, Ezreal ulti, Jace poke, stuff like that is going to be nicely matched, I dare say, actually, by Silky Smith's arrows that he'll be looking to fire. As you highlighted as well, middle-court, team fight is abound for Verdant. They've got that strong poke. As we move into that mid-game, expect double tiers to come through for them, so...
Ooh. Little bit of something I've spotted there at the bottom of your scoreboard. Now, I've heard whispers, I've heard rumblings
Okay.
of Doran Shield starts, support item second back on support. Do we reckon this is intentional for PlayStation, or has he
Yes.
had a little bit of a finger pop with screen the shove?
No, because... So, if this was like a typical top laner that you would see play top lane, I'd give you a bit of a, oh, you know, maybe they've just, you know, defaulted out, I'm playing Ornn, I need a Doran Shield. Rakan doesn't get recommended to take D-Shield. Rakan gets recommended to take World Atlas. So this is a conscious decision from PlayStation. And those rumblings, those rumours that you may have heard, may well have some merit. And I really want to credit PlayStation for it in this lane specifically. You took note of the arcane comets that we saw from Silky Smith and Justcan in the rune choices. So this is going to only aid and abet them when trying to stave off that poke.
Of course, that Doran Shield passive healing up every time that you take damage, and because Silky Smash has gone for the Arcane Comet, not the Hail of Blades, Varus is going to be a lot more poke focused, and we aren't going to have those short auto trades that we can see this champion do in the early stages. I mean, you can already see some value being gained of that by PlayStation as the ready bot lane hits level 2.
Yeah, and they also just weren't asked to leash by Natinat. They were just in the lane ready to wait, so they had posturing immediately. The second PlayStation and Gooby try and get into the lane. There's a Mantra Q waiting for them. There's Varus with autos and spells ready to go as well. So for PlayStation and Gooby, it's going to be a really tricky first couple of levels. Once they get past that, though, we'll hope to see a little bit of an engage. Maybe you can get a knock-up from PlayStation and really start throwing hands back.
We have just seen both junglers pathing towards the top side. Jobu, thinking about making a movement through into the river, is just going to get a ward down himself, as Natinat is also just moving his way over to his blue buff. And now, Zed in the mid lane. Not a champion that we see all that much of in professional play. We know that Alex is incredibly good on this character, but what are the issues that it has? Why isn't this such a high priority pick?
So just early on, base damages aren't going to be enough for you to assassinate an Azir, first of all, and also once you, or before you've got access to level 3, level 4, where you start to be able to trade back a little bit more efficiently, you just get poked out. As we can see here, Erol has range, has the ability to poke, do some decent damage underneath the Zed's turret, especially when he's trying to farm up.
And it's not just any Azir, right? This is Erol's Azir. He has played against Zed about 1 million times in solo queue, and he's probably got an above 50% win rate in those interactions.
Yeah, exactly. So you have to really think about who you're playing against. Obviously, Erol with the tenure on Azir that we've known and loved from him. I think I remember back to the EME Masters play-ins that we got to see literally last split. Erol Azir just popping off time and time again. So hopefully we get to see that sort of performance from Erol again this game. But obviously looking for this, we've sort of done a mid lane, done a bot lane. I want to take a quick look at that top side as well. Very even for the most part, but remember this is Ignite for Built in the top lane, and Built, I think, one of the players on the Shruddy roster that we've been thinking has maybe been struggling a bit more than the rest of the top lane pool. So taking Ignite here, it's going to be very punishing if he can't find any advantages, but equally in that 1 versus 1, should be expected to go pretty hard.
Yeah, and I think if we're talking about Verdant, I don't really feel like Jobu is a player that focuses too heavily on the top side of the map, so maybe he does have a little bit more room to play with, but yeah, like you're saying, this Jin Zhao can get in early and go for those ganks. The Jace has a lot of early damage as well. Instead, Jobu, a little bit of a visit here towards the bot lane, just trying to get this wave shoved in. Justcan looking for a route onto PlayStation. Natinat is here as well. Decent poke actually going down onto the members of Verdant. The counter-strike going to be thrown up. Flash needed to be burned there by Jobu to stay alive. And Alex, just about staying alive in the mid lane.
And honestly, this is the hardest part of this mid lane interaction. Alex has staved off the worst part. He's actually up in farm. He's going to be able to base TP, but he didn't base. Middle court should be able to have based and TP back. If he can get back to his base, get that health going, and have his first items, once you reach level 6, the lane becomes a lot easier, and you should be able to start trading back quite efficiently with the Azir. The fact that Alex has got to this point, so far so good. Very good sign for the Ruddy mid laner.
Yeah, and obviously he does have that teleport as well, so you kind of do get one of these free bases where you can come back out onto the map. Important in this season because we've got the Void Grubs that you have to pay attention to. PlayStation has moved his way up towards the top side of the rift, but
He's alone up there right now.
Justcan is going into the bottom lane, so it does look like Verdant is going to get the early prior on this objective.
Yeah, and when you're looking at this Azir as well, the push in the mid lane should be generated for the most part. Obviously, the Zed has to trade very heavily using his spells, and those are also the spells that you would use for wave clear. I think Verdant looking for this dive are going to struggle a lot, but maybe Natty on the menu.
Oh, caught out by the Gromp. Jobu jumps on top of him. Leap strike over the wall onto that ward. 50% HP is going to have to back away.
This is one of the beauties that Ezreal gives you as well for Verdant. Gooby is able to sort of stay down on that bot side. They know they got that crash on the first wave, so eventually this bounce back is going to happen. And then Ezreal can be fairly safe. Just Mystic Shot, try and farm up. So long as he's in experience range, he's probably going to be fine and not feel too far behind.
And this is also something about Gooby as a player that I really love. He's got so much experience. He understands how to play the weak side, understands that if there's no one on his side of the map, then he can't be playing up and aggressive.
Now, and what I also want to mention, Gooby started out with the Tear of the Goddess, so he's already at 120 stacks. That's a third of the way to the completion. Silky Smith based, got it on, obviously, that recall there. But Varus, just as a champion, stacks his tier way slower than an Ezreal will do. And that 2-item turn-on that you're looking for both of these ADs is actually going to hit a lot sooner for the Ezreal.
Yeah, Ruddy here, though, grouping it around Jobu's respawn of his blue buff. E-Roll is going to be able to spot them out, but can't do anything to prevent them taking away that big blue sentinel. Jobu only took one of those Void Grubs up in the top side of Ruddy. They haven't started up the dragon yet, so both those objectives been on the map for a little while, and neither team really taking full advantage of them.
Yeah, I'm genuinely interested to know what this obsession with taking one grub is, because I've seen it now a couple of times in a few of our games, and not just in the NLC either, where you're just taking a quick grub and you don't want to spend the time waiting for the shield to wear down. So Verdant, they find themselves just a little bit of help, and obviously the longer they leave this, the longer it'll be, or less likely even that it'll be, for a second set of grubs to respawn and, you know, get that 6-5 grub power spike.
So, been a low interaction game thus far. Are we feeling happy about this if we're Verdant?
Generally, I'd say yes. I think that this composition, obviously, as a 5v5, tends to be able to teamfight quite efficiently. You've got double tier, so that mid-game spike is obviously going to hit quite hard once they are fully stacked. Azir, as a champion, scales exceptionally into the late game. I think that kind of coming into this, you know that this is going to rely on Ruddy being able to out-hands Verdant a little bit. It's the nature of Zed, as Natty now picked off.
Yeah, looking for a potential dive. Still has that counter-strike, so Verdant can't play as hard onto the Jax as maybe they would like. And Alex roaming over post 6.
E-Roll's dropping a wave mid for this. He's actually low on HP. You can see the Zed having a good time in this 1v1.
Oh, going forward with the Shadow, but E-Roll swiftly shifting away.
Yeah, Alex would have liked to have got the ulti there on the Zed when the Azir's used his mobility. Might actually look for him under the turret. They may have just been spotted, or better safe than sorry, for E-Roll. But this mid lane matchup now should turn very heavily into the Ruddy mid laner's favour. It does get a lot trickier for the Azir. You can actually see fleet footwork in E-Roll's rune choice is not the typical go-to Azir rune, especially when you should be able to bully out the lane, early lane specifically. But he knows that as this match gets a little bit later on, it gets a lot harder for him to side lane or just lane effectively versus Alex. That fleet and the movement speed provided to dodge out on shuriken flips might be very valuable.
And that was one of the nicer changes that I saw for Azir, like his soldiers actually being able to apply on hit effects. It always felt like something that
should have been there in the first place.
Should have been there, but just kind of wasn't. And it means that we've started to see stuff like Lichbane taken on the Azir, when if you'd done that a few patches ago, people have gone like, what on earth are you thinking, bro? Only real lane advantage that we're seeing is this topside Doxy building up a sizable lead here over Built. But if we look at the total gold, it's actually Ruddy who are slightly edging ahead.
Yeah, now Natty once again always seems like he's getting picked up, but then he throws up the counter-strike and goes, ha, good prank, nerds. I'm actually fine. And, you know, even PlayStation being up on this top side, it's matched this time around by Justcan.
Oh, waiting in the wings, though. Going to be going onto the Jax. Has the flash available. Is instantly going to pop it away, but Verdant are out of there. Quick as a whip, Built having to burn that equalizer.
And once again, another advantage going the way of Verdant's top lane. It's not snowballed into the rest of the map just yet, but for the time being, Doxy then forced Built off of a wave. You can see the HP for Built sat about half. He's got no potions. Yes, he's got those tier 2 boots, so he can run away from the Jace very quickly. With that phase rush on Doxy's side as well, that chase down potential does exist.
Yeah, Ruddy is still hanging around this top side. We've still got those Void Grubs that Jobu refused to take a little bit earlier. Just looking to protect built from a potential dive here, and I feel like this is the first game involving Ruddy that I've seen go to 10 minutes without anyone dying.
No, I know one of the characteristics that we have of Ruddy is that they are always happy to fight, more than willing to throw down in any situation, and maybe that's, you know, coming in just kind of fielding a bit of a newer position in the team. They've not got that voice telling them to go forward. Maybe it's just that they recognize, actually, Alex late game, if we put him on a side lane, it's going to tear people apart. It's a 50-50 in terms of where their loyalties or maybe have been placed for this game. Sounds like the first set of Void Cups have finally been taken.
Yeah.
11 minutes into the game, and I don't know that we're going to get a second set.
I don't think we will. Ruddy also not just taking the Drake in response. Maybe it's the coach diff. Obviously, Ruddy actually having a coach now in the
I've had a
NLC.
coach for a few weeks, in fairness.
Yeah, maybe said to you guys, yo, just chill out a little bit.
is
Gooby
dead.
taking so much damage there, and there is no one to help him out. Silky Smath basically solo killing the Ezreal. The flash! Why? Natty Nat first blood.
All right, Ruddy find themselves first blood on the bot side. There is no trade on this top lane. Built had to back away from a wave underneath that turret, and that tier 1 turret in its entirety looks like it's going to be taken down. So 4 plates so far for the Jace. Might be even able to find a 5th. It looks like he's actually, and I really like this from Doxy, going to recall. That top lane is going so well at the minute. You break open that turret, you give the Rumble a much deeper pocket to farm in, while the game still isn't accelerated enough for you to be able to move out onto the rest of the map. This is actually really nice from Doxy that he keeps the turret there. He can continue to try and deny build farm, experience, whatever he feels like he can get away with. But obviously they are going to lose this Drake down on the bot side.
Yeah, very late Drake though. So if we're talking about win conditions, Soul really isn't going to be one for either of these teams for a little while. And
I don't know, I'm a big fan of the 37-minute Verdant Soul. Feels very on brand.
does feel a little bit, although I will say, I think like Verdant, this game aside, have been accelerating a fair bit more than they were very early on to the split, and that's why they are one of the two teams tied at 5 and 2. Does have that available, Ultimate and Ignite as well, but I don't feel like the Rumble is quite in 1v2 territory just yet, although saying that, he's burning down Jolbu!
Yeah.
He's able to get the kill, 1-for-1 in the top lane!
Level lead for 2 and Ignite down there? I'm going to be honest, Jolbu, you should have been a little bit more respectful, a bit more patient. Doxy could have potentially taken the lead with that, but a 1-for-1 for Bill, able to make the best of that bad situation. The Equalizer as well did the most part of the wave. He will still lose his tier 1 turret because there's another one crashing, and he's got a bit too long of a death timer without TP. PlayStation, though, he's in this position. He doesn't have his jungler here, so I expect them to be a little more cautious, especially with Natty Nat, as you can see. Immediately, Jolbu showed some presence on the top side. Natty Nat, okay, on my way, guys. I got bot prio, I got mid prio, let's move in.
And despite that kill just going down in favor of Ruddy, well, that exchange going down in favor of Ruddy, Doxy has become a bit of a silent threat. Now 2k ahead of Built. Now over 50 CS ahead of Built. Those accelerated shot blasts are going to absolutely tear through the low health bars of Ruddy.
And I really like this from Doxy as well. Had his choice of counter pick, and this is one of the instances where he's making it work.
Oh, Silky Smath going to be caught out, has the flash over the wall. No chase coming out from Gooby.
The PlayStation burned the ultimate and flash there actually on the Rakan, so playmaking tools a little bit hindered for the time being. Nevertheless, burning the flash on a Varus very, very valuable as an immobile AD carry. That is the only way that he has typically to escape any threats. I want to take a quick check back in with this mid lane. Gold very even, but we look at the items. It's tier 2 boots rush for E-roll, so he's obviously fairly fast on his feet. But Alex has already finished off that Eclipse, has got a lot of dueling power with the shield that provides if he's looking for a skirmish.
Are we going to expect him to move out into the side lanes anytime soon, or are we waiting for a few more towers to fall before that's a realistic proposition?
Yeah, I think we're looking at, well, according to Alex, no. He's answered your question for you. They're heading down bot side. We'll put the bot lane back into the mid lane and try and sort of put the Zed in as long a lane as possible. I think that's the best way to try and capitalize.
Oh, E-roll with the scoop directly into Jolbu. Gooby, the beneficiary. That's why this man picks us here.
And that's also why Varus with no flash needs to be careful on every single mid wave. I saw Justcan, he started up there. He went up to the wave with the Varus, said, okay, there's no danger. You can clear this out, right? And in fairness, Silky just probably thinks, yeah, I'm good. But the second the Karma runs away, Azir walks up, there's a jungler in the back pocket, and boom, that's a fast kill for the jungle and for the AD carry, more importantly, of Verdant, who'd been dove under the turret, not necessarily put super far behind, but that 400 or 300 gold will not feel bad.
Yeah, Doxy very, very close to a second item now on this. Jace Riffrail going to get picked up.
So there was that bot tier 1 that got traded by Alex as well, despite E-roll making that play in the mid lane. It came at the cost of this tier 1 turret and a bit more gold going into the Zed's pocket. Tunneler in the inventory as well now with those tier 2 boots and opting into the Lucidity boots as well. This is about as greedy as you can get for a Zed. Sometimes you have the option of going for something like Mercury Treads, going for something like Ninja Tabbies in case you need them. This time around, Alex thinks, I've just got to do as much DPS as possible, and Lucidities will help him do that.
Natty Nat has basically just been living in this bottom side jungle, constantly invading onto Jolbu and scaling up himself as well. We were talking about the top lane CS lead. The jungle CS gap is also very, very real.
I also really like Sundered Sky for these champions that like to dive forward. You get that additional crit on entry. You also get a little bit of healing as well. And you can see Jolbu plus PlayStation moving down toward this bot side, and Alex actually being forced to use his shadow to farm as opposed to harass. This is obviously one of those issues that you can't have with Zed. A bit of a crit to start us off. Now you're not going to jump in, and for the time being, tempered aggression for both of these two teams.
And this is a massive change up for Ruddy, and I think this is a very positive sign from them. We know that these guys can go forward. We know that they can see openings, maybe openings that aren't even there sometimes. But if you can play a relaxed mid game into an aggressive late game where you can actually find those capitalizations, then the raw mechanical skill that we know these players have can really come to show. E-roll gonna be caught here by Justcan, has to flash away to break the tether.
Yeah, I think the flash from Justcan there, if they wanted to ensure the tether, should have come through. However, the follow-up would have been a fair distance away, so there's that argument of, okay, we burned Azir flash, let's see if we can repeat that down on the bot side, and you won't be as safe to get away. Drake spawning in about 10 seconds time. It looks like Verdant are going to seed this one and heavily commit to this top side push.
Oh, Gooby could be in danger here. The Varus arrow execution! Silky Smap calculates the death of Gooby, as Verdant are still pushing in this top lane, but Doxy is going the wrong direction. That guy's got a green driver's license.
Yeah, we're going to have to revoke your permit after that one, Doxy, unfortunately. But we're looking at the bot side now. With that kill in the mid lane, you're able to find mid prio into bot push, and Ruddy, they've taken 2 turrets. The Azir with no flash knows he has to be respectful. 3 people down there, more than happy to show up, put some presence on the map, and Ruddy securing themselves their second dragon of the game. Let's see if they high or low roll based off of the soul.
Ooh.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. Middle of the road for me, Ocean, honestly.
I'll take it. You're playing against a Jace, you're playing against an Ezreal. A lot of poke there, so a little bit of extra regen if Ruddy can pick up that soul. Definitely nothing to be sniffed at. Built, though, he knows he's dead in the mid lane. Jolbu able to pick up that kill, and Verdant will be the first team to take down the enemy mid tower.
Okay, and that obviously makes the Varus' life a lot more difficult. I remember back in season 7, season 8, when it was Death by a Touch Varus mid lane. The key point of Varus in the mid lane was keep your tier 1 turret alive for as long as possible. Similarly, for control mages, it's what you're looking to do, and the Varus is no exception. It's a lot more dangerous for him now stepping up on those mid waves, despite the fact that he's been able to solo kill Gooby. If there's an Azir there, if there's a Xin Zhao there, they're going to be able to pick you off. Oh, that's rude as well.
That is very, very cheeky, Doxy.
Yeah. Me personally, I wouldn't accept that.
No, I wouldn't either.
I would flash on the Jace immediately.
Well, maybe week 2 Natty Nat does that.
Yeah, true.
But here in week 4, it has been calm and collected from the Ruddy jungler, and whilst they are 2 and 5, second to last place in the standings, because of how compressed, because of how compact everything is, if they're able to grab a win here, then they are still absolutely in the playoff contestation.
They are, and I know that I talked about Verdant's teamfight capabilities and highlighted how strong that can be, sort of built this picture as well of Alex being able to tear up a side lane. I actually think that Zed, if piloted well and if mechanically executed properly, is an absolute terror in late game teamfights as well. You do need a blue buff, you do need a boatload of ability haste, but Zed can be way more slippery than a Rakan and do almost infinite amounts of damage if in that instance.
Definitely more than a Rakan.
More than a Rakan, yeah.
Unless he's going full AP.
That's actually scary. I got owned by one of those in solo queue, but it is what it is. I do want to quickly, really hammer home that if Alex gets his opportunity in a team fight, he doesn't get isolated or soloed out, that you could potentially see things akin to, a Carly team fighting, Yone team fighting. The Zed definitely has that power if you know what you're doing.
Doxy actually going to get caught out here. It's actually going to go back forward onto Justcan, flashes away, but it's still going to get hit by the root. Natty Nat stuns it with the counter-strike of the Jace. Doesn't quite have enough damage to pull out the 1v3. big shutdown secured here for Natty Nats.
And there's no response on the map, by the way. Verdant had 2 people basing in the mid lane. They had no wave. This was just really well executed by Ruddy. They pushed in the mid wave mid that there was no response for Verdant there. Moved up to that top side. Took down the Jace, who had a big bounty on his head. Very nicely executed. And now 2-0 for Natty Nat on this Jax. Who's, you know, he already talks about being far ahead of the Xin Zhao. May well be able to finish off that second item very soon as well.
Still scared though. 3.5k lead for Doxy. He's got that third item completed, 24 mana away from the Mura mana, and once that comes online, the EQs from Jace, they are doing half of Alex's health. They are doing half of Silky Smath's health, and if you're starting a team fight from that position, it's difficult to play it out.
And if we look at the timer as well, right, 24 mana as you've highlighted, about the time it takes for a Drake to respawn, I'd say. We've got it coming up in about 90 seconds time. Verdant, they're going to want to stop the stacking. Ruddy, I imagine they're going to be able to preempt this. They've taken their resets. Let's see if they can move back out onto the map and get themselves in a position to either contest this Drake, which is not going to be easy, but Doxy.
Doxy walking into the bush, straight into Alex, dropping the death mark on top of the Jace, goes back to the shadow, misses with the double shuriken, and Doxy gets out scot-free. PlayStation has also made his way up into the top lane. Jolbu is around here as well, but they haven't been able to lock down Alex. He's kind of just walking away through the lane.
He's out. Well played, and now you'd like to think that Ruddy are going to move in, try and snipe away some of that vision that Verdant have placed down. There are 2 pink wards that are inside the bot side jungle of Ruddy. Let's see if they can try and sniff those out, spot them away. But Julberry's still up on this top side. Drake spawns in 40 seconds. You need to be on the map now to try and contest that vision, or you're face-checking a Varus.
But the issue is, for Ruddy, this is going to be the 3rd dragon, right? This is sole point.
It doesn't sound like an issue.
Yeah, it does sound. It does sound like an issue, but if you're Verdant and not if you're Ruddy.
Ah, okay. I see. No, so I really do want to highlight the fact that Natty Nat, well, first of all, that he's feeling exceptionally crazy as he dives forward, but he's the only person that's going to be staying forward in these team fights. You're looking at Bill, I'm looking importantly to try and find out if he can have any sort of stopping power as he goes forward, but the reason I bring it up is Natty Nat, when he's got this Sundered Sky plus Sterak's Gauge, it's going to take a lot of time to fall, and it's deceptively tanky with all the HP he'll be able to get.
I mean, you go in with the Counter-Strike, that's buying you a load of time, then you get the Sterak's prop, that's going to buy you more time, and then once Verdant have burnt through that, your Counter-Strike is up again, and you can rotate through your cooldowns, be much more durable than you otherwise would expect. Actually going on to PlayStation, chugging him down to half HP, and Verdant are forced back out of the river. Ruddy have first move on the objective.
So there's no mid-wave, no real control there, and actually, despite the double tier setup, despite them being fully turned into mirror manas, Ruddy, quite easily really, and quite simply, take themselves up to Soul Point.
And it feels like we're getting the Ruddy that almost we've been promised over these past few weeks. We've seen glimpses of it, but in this game, despite it being so even, they're now on that Soul Point. They've got that ticking time bomb that they can hold over Verdant's head, and this would be a huge upset if they're able to follow this game to its logical conclusion.
It really does just feel like a completely different team, to be honest. Ruddy, from previous games, every time I've watched them, they've just been all-out brawl, scrap fight on any given timer. See somebody on a mid-wave, that's illegal, let's take them down. This time round, a lot more tempered, a lot less aggression in their outright sort of play style with this, but in terms of how well they've been playing the map and where they've been putting their resources, a much better showing from Ruddy. We got to see Silky Smath, I think, step up in a way that we've not seen from him at all, finding a solo kill on Gooby in the mid lane. Built, despite that early rough laning phase and getting taken down, losing his turret, since then has stabilized quite nicely. That 3.5k gold lead that you highlighted earlier on is actually still 3.5k, and whereas Doxy had this advantage, he actually got picked off in a side lane, and yes, there was a large commit from Ruddy to make that happen, but it's a large commit from Ruddy that worked out, whereas Verdant didn't do anything.
Yeah, and it feels strange to be talking about Ruddy like this when they are behind in terms of the gold, theoretically, against Verdant, who have this incredibly strong late-game team fighting composition. But we know that Verdant can do this. We know that they can get to the 25 to 30-minute mark and then just win. This is not something that we've seen from Ruddy before, and there is a little worry from me that the experience that Verdant have in these situations is going to really benefit them, whereas Ruddy, they've not really been here before. They're in uncharted waters.
They are indeed, but they're not in uncharted waters when it comes to fighting. I feel like one of those 5v5s is almost bound to happen for us, because we've been starved of one all game middle court. This entire match has been little sly picks here, an overextension by one solo laner in this lane, or a solo kill happening. neither of these sides have committed to a fully fledged 5v5 and instead have been very respectful of one another.
I mean, we've got a Zed in the game who is 0, 0, and 0.
Ooh.
25 minutes in. Not really the snowballing threat, but we're waiting for that late game teamfighter to come through from Alex.
Exactly. Now Gooby actually very low on HP may be a signal for Natina and the rest of Ruddy to glimpse at that Baron. At the very least, they've got a pink ward in the pit so they can spot out whether or not there's any vision from Verdant specifically. But actually on this timer, everybody basing, all 5 members, except for Alex actually, of Ruddy, looking to get their synced up recalls. And Alex, maybe he looks to take one here, just going to quickly snipe away a quick extra creep. But with the Drake spawn in about 2.5 minutes, remember that is your soul timer for Verdant. And I'm looking at those items. There's not really going to be a big hit come through in terms of those items before then. Maybe Gooby's Navori Quickblades gets finished. But other than that, this is probably the fighting power that we're seeing from Verdant.
Yeah, and I think for them, it is all about just buying time for Doxy. How long can we go without Doxy getting engaged on? Because those shot blasts, they are going to hurt if they're landing. But if Ruddy find a flank, if Alex goes into the back line, hides in a corner where Verdant don't have vision, then you don't necessarily get that time as the Jace before you're exploded.
So level 16 for E-Roll is actually a fairly decent pickup. We'll have to see whether or not that fighting power ends up translating into a win for them. And sort of building this hypothetical story around a 5 versus 5. There's every world where Ruddy say, hey, you've got to commit very heavily to stop us taking this dragon. The beauty of having 3 Drakes is you don't have to go for any Drakes for the next few minutes. You can head up toward this Baron, and you can see that for the moment, 4 members of Ruddy are cheating up toward that top side. Their vision around the bot side of this map, very, very limited. So there's every world where they put Alex, who's very slippery, fairly safe on this bot side, and they just turn their attention to the Baron.
And he has that TP as well, so he can be the split pushing threat and then move up to join the rest of his team if he feels so inclined. And yeah, Verdant, they've got 2 TPs for themselves as well, but honestly, I don't really fancy E-Roll going up against this Zed in the side lane.
It's really important that PlayStation stays off vision, because I think as soon as the Azir gets spotted solo and they know where Verdant have all 5 members, it gives a free window for Alex to try and take this 1 versus 1. Now, importantly, E-Roll has a finished Zhonya's Hourglass. It's not just a Seekers that you can use a one-time stasis on. This is every time the Zed goes in, I will be able to stasis it. That's actually not true. I'm going to lie on air, but Zed ult is way shorter than 120 second cooldown. So it's nice in theory.
Well, it depends how often Alex is using his ult.
Well, if it's up, if he uses it every time it's up, then I was simply mistaken.
I feel like currently we're at a rate of about once every
per game.
Once every 30 minutes. Oh, no, we have that top one onto Doxy, remember?
No, true.
Natty Nat here. Maybe a little bit of an overextension, but again, buying time with the Counter-Strike. Still going to get taken to half HP, though.
And that was just a couple of autos from E-Roll. You get to see quite how fast he was chunked out. There's also Chain of Corruption burned by Silky Smath there on a timer where the Drake is up. So neither of these teams are particularly bothered that this is Ruddy's soul. Verdant, you'd like to think, want to try and deny this, but they're acutely aware. You commit too much down to this bot side, it opens up Ruddy to just take this Baron. I like that it's just Gooby, again, somebody with TP, who's just trying to solo out this Drake, make sure that he can pick that up, deny anything from Ruddy. And honestly, I'm a little bit saddened by what Ruddy have accomplished with this time, because other than vision in the top side, there's not even been a sniff at Baron. We've not forced any TPs for this. It feels a little bit lackluster, and they could have probably just fought for the Drake instead.
Yeah, but credit to Verdant getting that chunk down onto Nat. I think if you don't do that, then Ruddy would be able to apply a lot more pressure. And I think this is what we were kind of alluding to in these later game situations. Verdant understand how important it is to not take these small negative health trades where you're not going to die, but if you're forced off the map, it's functionally the same thing for the next 20 seconds.
E-Roll's just gone back to base, didn't get chance to finish off a 3rd item. Alex got absolutely crabbed right there. I mean, there are many jokes about the jukes that Scuttlecrab has. That has persisted into Season 14 with this Void Rift, but stolen away by Verdant. Secured, I suppose, by Jewel Booth, but either way, nice pickup, and they've got that vision around the top side. Now, with no occupancy in the bot side pit, it's very likely that we see all of our attention look toward this top end.
Yeah, and there I'm thinking that the tools that Verdant have in their composition will just favour them a little bit. PlayStation using all the tools in the Rakan's kit to get away, but if we're talking about hard engaged potential from Ruddy, it's Natinat going in with the leap strike, counter strike combo, and then a chain of corruption landing from Silky Smath, and that's kind of about it. Verdant, Jobu can just fly in. Erol, if he wants to go for a Madness Shurima shuffle, he absolutely can. And then, of course, PlayStation, with all the CC that Rakan can provide, is going to make your composition a bit more flexible at this point of the game. Silky Smath burning the flash, throwing down the chains of PlayStation, falling into his grave. Is that the pick for Ruddy? Jobu throwing up the Crescent Garden. Ruddy, they can get precious little more, forcing the flash out of Gooby with that. And Alex going forward, but not too far. Will back away, and Ruddy, they start to look a little bit more seriously at the Baron.
Yeah, they've used the TP from Alex here. They need to get something from this. Even if it's just a mid-tier 1 turret, they've got the tools to be able to make that happen. Gooby and Jolbu stepping in here. This is actually very dangerous.
Oh, the Xin Zhao flashing away, and for all the veterans seeing these scenarios, it's Verdant who are looking a little bit more flustered.
Erol will be able to defend this tier 1 turret, and again, Ruddy steal away a red buff, but after finding a pick onto PlayStation, you'd like to find a little bit more, especially, 31 minutes into this game. These death timers aren't short. And a quick highlight as well for PlayStation. You've gone for these didn't go for the Merc Treads, excuse me, which I think is, in this instance, can be a bit of a blunder. You've got one snap engage, and then you're hoping to start the fight off. The cooldowns can be very important, but that extra tenacity would have been so valuable for him in that specific situation. He would have been able to get away. He's also level 9, which is very under-leveled compared to the rest of the game. He's exceptionally squishy and will just get melted.
Yeah, those base stats, can't underrate them at all. Around about 1,000 gold value in those
Really?
per level up, from what I've heard, from what I've been told. So, yeah, maybe give a little bit more gold, maybe a little bit more XP to PlayStation in the future. But now it really is crunch time. I think for Ruddy, Erol there, getting caught out on the bottom side. Alex nearly running into Job. We're actually going to be finding the Xin Zhao 3 items on the Zed, but without that ultimate, the 1v1 potential isn't really there. Ruddy see the potential for a Baron startup, but Verdant are moving over. PlayStation with the flash engage onto Silky Smath, but the Varus dies in the end. It's a 1-for-1, the support taken off the board, and Ruddy back away from the Baron. Jobu still tussling with Alex in the bottom side, so without a jungler on the top, Verdant can't start up the Baron.
Yeah, I mean, Alex has ulti in 4 seconds, by the way.
Oh, he's going on to Job. So much healing coming through from the Sundered Sky. The Eclipse shielding as well, turning this Zed into a bit more of a bruiser than an assassin. And with that level lead, he could get something off it. Doxy's just been caught. What is going on? Verdant catch is happening everywhere, and it's Ruddy with the killer instinct finding more.
Little bit of a miscommunication between Verdant. They're just really split on all angles. Now Gooby and Erol, they're getting routed.
Oh, Arcane shift away. Death Mark throw down. Not quite going to be able to find the execute, but Natinat dives in to secure it. Erol now locked under his own tower, gets the shutdown, but he's shut down in return. That's 2 for Ruddy.
30 seconds on the Drake, and Ruddy, unfortunately, they don't feel confident enough to go for that Baron. Julbu's alive, Natinat's dead. It's an important distinction because there's a smite ready for Verdant, and they don't have the damage to A, take the Baron down, and zone out Julbu as well. So they kind of get a lot of kills and not too much else. When we look at those death timers, Erol, Gooby, they won't be up for the soul. It will most likely just go to Ruddy, and that's a big win for them.
Ooh, PlayStation. Very glad that he's playing Rakan and literally not any other support at this point. But Ruddy, they've got the position on the map. Jacharm going down onto the Zed. Jobo's going to be diving in, but out comes the death mark. Down goes PlayStation, and here comes all of the damage. Another 2 kills for Ruddy, and that is Ocean Soul basically guaranteed.
Not just Ocean Soul middle cut, that is Baron as well. Ocean Drake takes 10 seconds to go down. It takes you 10 seconds to walk to the Baron, and Julbu isn't alive for another 30. They'll be able to mince this one as well. And whilst those turrets have been standing strong, Verdant have not been. Yes, the poke from Doxy looks good, but now you're versus Ocean Soul. And with 3 carries up on the board, there's a world where Verdant can contest. But look at Alex. His ulti's up in 5 seconds again.
And he's just trying to buy time, prevent the approach from Doxy. Flashes back into the pit. There is so much range damage that can come through from Verdant. As in dives the Zed, but down he goes. The Baron securely still alive. Natinat jumping to buy little before Silky Smath is taken out. Built solo, and Erol providing the damage with the soldiers. Ruddy, they get the Baron, but they're back on the run. The shadow sliding away from Verdant as Alex is Well, he's still alive somehow on the other side of the fight, but he is running directly into Jobble. No, gets another shadow up, and I think he might just be out of here, Rude Dude.
Yeah, late game Zed, I told you. This guy does infinitely more damage and is infinitely more slippery. He is level 18, has all the cooldowns that he needs, and he's got ulti in 2 seconds.
Jumping forward, gets the charm, the explosion coming through, but it's not quite in time. Finally, a shutdown, finally. Alex is gonna drop. It's a Baron for Ruddy and an Ocean Soul, but the game is still going.
The Baron is probably useless to them now. Unless Natinat and Justcan can stay grouped, those are typically your 2 members that you like to fluctuate between your lanes to allow for side lane priority so you can get more than one wave of control with the Baron. But unfortunately, they lost Alex, they lost Silky Smath, and they lost Bill. So Baron is on the 2 worst members. There's still a world where they can make the most of it, though. They've got probably a minute and a half left to get really the ball rolling on taking down some turrets, and there are some low-hanging fruit on the map. A couple tier 2s in the side lanes, and even mid-tier 1 still stands.
Gooby just doesn't do any damage to Natty Nat at this point with a Frozen Heart completed, and so many auto-attack based champions on the other side, it's so difficult to do.
I don't know why Gooby has Malignance. I'm more than here for the build. This item may well be very good. And Gooby, you're going to have to teach me the tech on this one, because, you know, that's a good chunk. That did well. A Lord Dominic's Regard, however.
Maybe does a little bit better.
I don't know. Like I say, I'm all for innovation, and I'm really happy when players have this, like, mentality of, I'm not just cookie cuttering. And this is certainly that instance.
Yeah, but I think if we're taking another look at the inventory of Verdant, I'm not seeing any anti-heal in here at all, and I feel like as soon as the Ocean Soul became a realistic possibility for Ruddy, this is something that we have to be itemizing.
Well, the good thing is that a Ruby Crystal, at least in seasons gone by, built into a Morellonomicon. So we're going for the true AP hybrid for the Ezreal. Maybe it's going there. But no, you are quite right. Even if it's just a Bramble Vest for Julbu, like any form of anti-heal would be so valuable. I wouldn't even mind just an Oblivion Orb on PlayStation at this point, just to try and apply it to somebody. Because it certainly got to them a couple of times. The good thing is that Doxy at this point is a hybrid of both Poke and Assassin, because with this build, yes, he does a lot of damage with Shot Blast, but equally, if he gets on top of somebody, they die.
Yeah, it's the shoot you with the hammer and then hit you with the hammer playstyle that Jace can adopt in the later stages. This mid lane tower has survived for so damn long for Verdant, but not a second or longer as Ruddy marched through to knock it down. Doxy is still pushing in the side lane as the Baron runs out here for Ruddy. They're going to be able to get a second tower in the mid lane and wrest control of the gold lead.
Elder Drake spawning in 2 minutes time, everybody. Go back to base, spend your gold. You just got a couple of turrets down on the map. Make sure that you are set up and ready to go for this fight that is definitely going to happen. That important thing about this Ocean Drake as well is that any of the poke that lands from your Jace, from your Ezreal, is going to be a lot easier to regenerate, whereas I'm looking on the flip side. Verdant's regenerative tools come from Gleaming Quill from the Rakan, and that's about it. So Silky Smath actually in this next setup, this next set of engages, is really important, because if he can land some crucial poke onto Ubi, Erol, Doxy, that damage sticks. And when the red buff wears off, it really does stick, because that's actually how they're going to get their health back, is with the red buff passive health regen. As soon as that dies down, it's actually very important that Ruddy start trying to land that poke and Verdant try to dodge it.
And this definitely feel like a switch up in terms of the tempo of this game. Very, very calm, zen-like through the early stages, but a flurry of blows has been unleashed by Ruddy in these later stages as Jolbu's going forward onto Alex, but he just can't cut through all the health that the Zed have. Gooby having to get away as far as he can, he's just about able to, but Verdant are on full retreat. Ruddy relentless in their pursuit. Alex going for the flank. Natty throwing up the counter strike. Assassination. Double kill for Alex on the Zed. Erol puts up the tower, but it won't defend him for long. Diving forward onto Alex, able to trade back some damage, and Erol is still alive before he hates. A shutdown for Alex. We don't care about the Elder Dragon. Ruddy for the win.
History repeats itself for the second time in the spring split. Ruddy will take down Verdant, push themselves to 3 and 5, and take down our top place team.
Their playoffs dream is not dead. Nexus down, Ruddy up.
And another one. Every single time, it's just Ruddy coming out of the woodwork and absolutely putting on a spectacle for us, honestly. Because coming into this, I mean, our predictions will show it as well. We didn't expect Ruddy to come away with a win for the most part. We had a couple of rogue ones thrown in there, and they were onto some secret sauce. A completely different look for Ruddy. They genuinely looked like a different team today. They came out, they had slow, controlled, measured approaches to their early game. They built up the leads in the areas that they needed to, and then they exploited the mistakes that Verdant made, where they put a lot of people up onto that top side. They come into the bot side, they start taking those drakes. The Ocean Soul had untold value during that game. I think Erol gets maybe at least 3 people in that final team fight without an Ocean Soul and potentially saves the game, but it was that difference maker that kept them in it and then put them over the edge.
Yeah, and I think Alex is obviously going to be taking a lot of plaudits for this game, but I want to be talking about Natty Nat and Silky Smath as well. I think 2 players on Ruddy that have been a bit inconsistent. They showed up in a massive way today, and the closest ERL across all of Europe just got that little bit closer. We are going to be chucking to a break before the analysts break down how Ruddy got their 3rd win of the split.
At SteelSeries, we make the headsets, mice and keyboards that the world's best gamers win the most with. And we've been doing it since way back. It's up to you how far you go, but whatever you do, go for glory.
But Shift, being one of the members here, you can't kite the mark quite yet because Shift is still alive. The Shockwave finds them all, but can they kill Shift? No! They can! He's still alive and he's taking down them all! Alongside Liam Cole and Persson, they will not give up! And DMG! On-hold coming through, Ice and Smurf, and he's the big meatball, but Shift still not dead. Shockwave finds 3, but Shift still alive. He's found on reset. Can he find the next? Yes!
They've done
He
it!
can, baby! They're finding them all. It's 4 for DMG, and